goals. The General Manager's recommendation is to review and comment on the vision and goals for the Hawthorne Historic Complex as recommended by the Hawthorne Historic Complex Ad Hoc Committee. No board action is required. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gali Basson. I'm a Planner 3, and I'll be presenting on the draft vision and goals for the Hawthorne's Historic Complex. On the screen is the General Manager's recommendation to review and comment on the draft vision and goals for the Historic Complex as recommended by the Hawthorne's Historic Complex Ad Hoc Committee. No formal board action is required. The agenda for tonight will begin with a presentation, followed by board questions and public comment. And finally, we will conclude with board discussion and feedback. So for context, the 79-acre Hawthorne's area property is located in the town of Portola Valley, west of Highway 280, near the intersection of Alpine Road and Portola Road. It is officially part of the Windy Hill Open Space Preserve, which is located less than a mile to the west. The historic complex is approximately 13 acres within the property, located on the southeast portion of the property, circled in yellow on the map, and includes several structures that date back to the late 1800s. Due to the unique cultural resources located within the historic complex, planning for the use and management of the historic complex is a separate planning effort than the planning process for the rest of the Hawthorne's area. We are just getting started with the historic complex planning process, whereas planning for the Hawthorne's area plan is currently in the programming phase. I'm going to highlight what makes the Hawthorne's Historic Complex unique. There are multiple structures within the complex that are eligible for the National Register of Historic Places as a historic district due to its pattern of estate settlement of gentlemen's farms along the peninsula in the late 19th and 20th century. 4 of the buildings have more significant historic features. These include the Hawthorne's house, the garage, the lower barn, and the cottage, which are circled in yellow on the site map. Here are photos of the 4 buildings that I mentioned that have historically significant features: the garage, the lower barn, the house, and the cottage. As I mentioned earlier, planning for the future use and management of the historic complex has recently begun with the formation of an ad hoc committee last fall. We are undergoing high-level technical studies and exploring partnership opportunities to understand the feasibility of future use ideas. I'm now going to share the board-approved Hawthorne's area vision and goals. So planning for the overall Hawthorne's area began with development of vision and goals for the entire property, and these were approved by the board in March of 2022. They provide the overarching vision and goals guiding the future use and management for the property. The historic complex goals will complement those for the overall Hawthorne's area, but will specifically guide the future use and management of the historic complex. This approach mirrors the process that guided the Alma Cultural Landscape Rehabilitation Plan, which has a separate vision statement and goals under the umbrella of the Bear Creek Redwoods Open Space Preserve vision and goals. The vision statement for the Hawthorne's area includes protecting and managing the natural, scenic, cultural, and open space resources at the Hawthorne's area, as well as providing ecologically sensitive public access that is consistent with the district's mission and allowable uses outlined in the conservation easement. The conservation easement referenced in the vision statement is an easement held by Peninsula Open Space Trust, and it establishes use restrictions for the entire property. The goals for the Hawthorne's area are specific to the property's natural resources, public access, local and regional connectivity, natural and cultural history, aesthetics, and operations and maintenance. I'd like to point out the goal related to natural and cultural history, which is to interpret the rich, natural, cultural, and historic features and pursue partnerships to manage the property's natural and cultural history, as this is applicable to the historic complex. All of these goals apply to the historic complex, but the historic complex vision and goals will be more specific to the unique resources found there. So I will now share the draft Historic Complex Vision and Goals as recommended by the Historic Complex Ad Hoc Committee. Goal number 1 is to integrate with the Hawthorne's area plan and its vision and goals, and that's to ensure alignment with the Hawthorne's area plan. Goal number 2 is to manage structures in the historic complex in consideration of the federal guidelines for the treatment of historic properties and consistent with the conservation easement. Goal number 3 is to balance the potential uses, improvements, and programs for the historic complex with the district mission, where future uses would achieve multiple goals. Goal number 4 is to balance long-term financial and operational sustainability with potential benefits. Goal number 5 is through partnerships, connect with the community to advance the district's diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. Goal number 7 is to ensure safe access, guided by the district's good neighbor policy for the public to view and learn about the site's history, stories, and incorporate interpretive elements throughout the site. Goal number 7 is to engage with the Indigenous groups to explore opportunities for advancing the understanding of Indigenous history around the Hawthorne's area and Portola Valley. Goal number 8 is to consider housing, either short-term or long-term, that supports the district's mission. Goal number 9 is to incorporate the historic complex holistically within the overall Hawthorne's area plan. This goal is related to the physical connection between the Hawthorne's area and the historic complex, so that the historic complex is not an island but flows together with the rest of the property. I'll now share some next steps. We will be returning to the board in August to request approval of the Hawthorne's Historic Complex Vision and Goals. We anticipate this at the August 28th board meeting. Staff will continue to conduct high-level feasibility work, and we will continue to engage with the ad hoc committee to explore future uses and partnership opportunities. The results of the feasibility work and a partnership framework will be presented to the board likely at the end of 2024. Thank you. I can now answer questions.
Yes, we do have one.
I don't have a question. It's really a comment. Because I'm on the ad hoc, and I really want to thank staff and my colleagues, Director Gleason and Director Riffle, for all the effort, work, thought, and consideration that's gone into this, because I'm pretty pleased with where it is and what the potential outcome is. I think could be pretty stunning and rather unique, and staff's been a big part of that. And I really want to thank you most sincerely for your participation, guidance, and patience as we've gone through this, and your open-mindedness, as well as your own thinking in terms of the complex. So thank you very much.
Wow, thank you.
Speed of getting to this point is really commendable.
Director Gleason.
Yeah, so I have some similar comments, but what I wanted to say is that I really, really enjoyed working with the staff and my colleagues on this process. And what I've seen is a team that is just working really, really well together. Everybody's bringing ideas. Everybody's willing to challenge assumptions that we've made. You know, for example, later tonight, we have an item that talks about the structures and the refurbishment of the structures. And that was a change in plans, but you know, that bubbled up from the team. And also, I think there's been really, really good leadership from the staff on driving the partnership as well as the interaction with Post on the conservation easement. And yeah, I've just really enjoyed this process. So thank you.
Thank you both.
Just a question, actually. So do you go ahead? Go ahead.
So I also just wanted to say, in addition to the thanks, that this is really a unique property because it entails many structures of many different ilk, if you will. And I was surprised that, well, one is going on a tour of the historic mansion. I was just kind of blown away that the original bathroom fixtures are there, for instance. And that may sound silly, but given modern plumbing and all of that, but the fixtures are beautiful and they're still intact and they're in there. And walking up in front of the garage, and I was thinking like, oh, it's too bad those doors don't still exist. And you go inside and it's like, they do exist. They're just, mothballed inside. And the diversity of this property too, where you have, this complex that was built somewhat over time and for different, it was a gentleman farmer, as you said. But then you've got somebody like Julia Morgan who designed the garage. It's stunning. The property is just stunning in many ways and offers surprises, and the natural resources are pretty remarkable too. But it's a very rich property in very many ways. So it's exceedingly engaging.
I agree.
Director Riffle.
Great, thanks. So thanks for my colleagues on the committee. I agree 100% with what they said. So I'm encouraged with how things are going so far. And thank you, Golly, for your leadership. My question actually is one kind of with the public in mind, because I'm sure I can't see who's tuning in, but wouldn't be surprised if some residents of Portola Valley are listening to our discussion tonight. And I think that they probably, if I were them, I would have a question of gosh, when are we going to have an opportunity to kind of weigh in and not only tonight, but as the process moves forward. So if you could kind of answer or just give us an idea of how that's going forward. And then secondly, maybe why we chose a little bit of different approach between, how the public access versus the historic, because we thought pretty long and hard about how to do that. And to your leadership, I think we're on the right course, but it might be good just to give some background about that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So the first question, can you remind me what the first?
The public.
The public. Yes,
yep,
yes,
yeah.
yes. So when staff were first developing the Hawthorne's area plan, they actually held some neighborhood meetings in Portola Valley that were well attended and well received from the feedback that we heard. And a lot of that input was incorporated into the work that's gone on so far. And so we'd like to replicate that. Once we go back to the board and kind of present our results, which right now we don't have anything to present, but once that's been presented, we would like to then hold some neighborhood meetings and replicate that. And there were like tables and Post-its, and people could provide input. So we'd like to go out to the community and do that. And then following, once we kind of know what direction we're going in, we'll develop a robust outreach plan and continue that engagement.
Great, okay. Good.
And then the second question, the historic complex has really unique resources and constraints that are not found elsewhere on the property. And so it really requires kind of a more focused, specific effort that's kind of separate from the rest of the property and really unique to the district, actually. I don't think we have something that's quite so many structures and offers so much in kind of one area, but also has a lot of constraints that come with it. And so that's partly why the two projects were separated out, so that there could be a more focused look. The other is the timing. We didn't want to hold up the public access to the rest of the property and that planning process, which began in 2021. and has already gone through a lot of work. And so didn't want to hold that up to the community. And so that was another reason why those efforts were separated. But you can see we included in the goals integration with both the plan that will be for the rest of the property, and then also kind of the design and the feel so that they will work seamlessly, even though they're two parallel processes.
Right. Good. All right. Thank you.
Director Kishimoto.
Okay. Well, I don't know if this is a question or not, but well, one has to do with just the noting that goal number 7. I was really pleased to see that was about the Indigenous history, incorporating the Indigenous groups, because if you do consider the whole of the history of the site, it's 99% of the history, really. So, and maybe the question there is, has there been archaeological work done that has found some signs of it? And
there has been some archaeological work, and there have been some findings on the property within the historic complex.
yes, okay. And so, how important do you or the are you thinking this Indigenous history is going to be part of this?
We would really like to highlight it as part of the history. The reason why the goal says to engage is we really need to offer the Indigenous tribes something in return. So we're not just asking them to provide us with information, but that they kind of feel like it's something they want to participate in and get some benefit from. So it's a little bit dependent on the engagement that occurs, but I think we are willing to, and would love to engage with Indigenous groups and really highlight the resources that they feel comfortable with us highlighting.
Okay, well, I'll look forward to what comes back from that. And then my second question has to do with, I'm thinking of the Alma College historic, and that was just stunning work that was done by, the staff and consultants. And part of that was, well, I don't know how much was staff versus consultants, but I mean, that whole area was just tied together so beautifully. And is there any plans to do that kind of work?
We're still exploring feasibility. I mean, I personally went to the site, on my own time and just fell in love with it. I thought it was done very well. I was like, wow, if we could do this for Hawthorns.
Yeah.
But there's different constraints on this site than there is Alma College. But I think we all kind of have that lofty vision that we would love to bring to the public.
Okay, well, my 2 cents is that I hope we do something like that. Yeah.
Noted.
Okay. Director Gleason.
I just wanted to make some comments on goal 7 because we did have a fair amount of discussion on that in the ad hoc. And the starting point, I think, was this idea that we have this big packet, and it has, 100 or more pages on the history of the site and very, very little on Indigenous history or prehistory. And at the same time, there's some really interesting work going on in other places, particularly in the San Francisco area with the Association of Ramaytush Ohlone. There are a number of projects that have been commissioned up there to really explore the ethnohistory of the tribes in the area. And I think one of them is also a mapping project that's being done in conjunction with the SFEI, who we've partnered with in the past. So I think there's a real opportunity to discover more and research more, not just about Hawthorns, but maybe the area around it, and give people a better understanding of how Indigenous history and prehistory really relates to places that are known to them today.
One more.
Director Riffle.
Yeah, just one more comment. I'm just thinking, because the 3 of us have been so involved with this, and I'm trying to channel, if you will, my colleagues. Golly, if you wouldn't maybe comment a little bit about the easement that we have to deal with,
Mhm.
which doesn't make things easy. I mean, maybe the easement.
So the property does have a conservation easement that was written in 2005. So it's a very restrictive easement. It limits a lot of I guess uses on the property in order to protect its conservation values. So we are been working closely with Post to stay consistent with the easement, but to provide an experience for the public at the same time. And so, for instance, there are things like no new utilities. So we have to be kind of work within this framework that is written into the easement.
And just to add to that about the no new utilities, just as a reminder, these buildings were constructed and have existed for how long?
130 something years, some of them.
So it is pretty constraining if you think about the era of the buildings and what we're, within the framework of where we have to work from. So it requires a lot of creativity.
Mhm. And I will say Post has been very willing to work with us. It's the language is very restrictive, but they are working with us to stay true to the easement, but also figure out solutions to the uses that we're contemplating.
Director Holman.
Yeah, it is true that the buildings many of them date back to the 1880s, I think. The mansion in particular. There were people living here though, into the 70s and 80s.
70s, yeah.
And so there are utilities on site to some extent, just not to the extent that would make our lives a lot easier. But and another shout out to staff because you've been working very diligently with Post on how to interpret some of the constraints that do exist with the easement.
That it?
I think now we go to public comment. Is that right? Is a questions and then public comment and then board feedback and input. Is that right?
President McNiven, we did have one person register to do public comment virtually online, Ms. Christy Corley.
Yeah.
However, we do not see her online. I would just like to remind members of the public who are on Zoom that your display name needs to match the comment card so that way we can call upon you.
She did submit a written comment.
She did submit a written comment,
Yeah.
correct, and she also registered to provide oral comments for this item.
Right.
And I do not see any name changes on Zoom, so I do not see Christy Corley online. And we have no further public commenters.
Okay, thank you. Well, we could. So that's your presentation, Gally?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. We'll just go on to board deliberation then. Sounds wonderful to me. Sounds like you're doing what you should be doing. Thank you. I was sort of expecting more maps and stuff, but
Oh,
yeah. So this is amazing.
I think I just said, next time it comes before us, we may have more.
Yeah, yeah.
Golly, if just unless I missed it, but if I did, if you could repeat it anyway, for the sake of the public members who are listening in and also for our board, we can just review the next steps because I know this is a study session or and there's no decision tonight. But what are those? If you can just go back to those one more time.
sure. We wanted to separate this into a study session so that the public can provide input also on these vision and goals. And then I'll be returning back on August 28th for approval, official approval of the vision and goals. In the meantime, staff will continue to work with the ad hoc committee exploring feasibility of use ideas and partnership opportunities. And then we will have a study session to present those items to the board. We're anticipating December would be when we would present those findings and get input, so no decision at that time. And then based on board feedback, we would come back in January for kind of approval of the direction, the planning direction for the project. So the immediate next steps are to approve the vision and goals that are before you today.
Gotcha.
Madam President, I have a question. I just thought about something. Can I? Yes. So as I recall, the Hawthorne area planning work is completed, or at least they've completed their tasks. And I'm just wondering, Golly, can you remind us how we're going to make sure these two are proceeding? It's
Yeah.
somewhat lockstep.
So the work for the Hawthorne's Area Plan Public Access Working Group just was completed, and they have their recommendations, and that will be coming to the Planning and Natural Resources Committee September, I forget, September 12th, 17th. Okay. It will be up to the committee to decide if it's ready to go to the full board or not. But once it goes through the process of deciding on making decisions on, the parking and the trail use, then staff will work on drafting a document called the Hawthorne's Area Plan, which will guide the use and management of the plan. It will be very general in regards to the historic complex, but as we move forward with the historic complex, we need to make sure that we are, in alignment, both from a planning perspective and also from a flow and a physical connection. And so we'll just be working closely together to ensure we don't foreclose on an opportunity or create a future conflict. And currently, we are working in close alignment to make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay. Director Kishimoto, followed by Director Holman.
Okay, thank you. Well, I was kind of just reviewing again a little bit of what I remembered of this. And so one question is, so the public access and parking for this historic area, is that going to be part of the larger access plan, or it's going to be part of this?
It will be specific to the historic complex, although
it'll have its own parking.
Yeah, although some of the site constraints, it's not going to have as big of a parking. And so the parking for the rest of the property may need to be the majority of the parking for the historic complex due to the constraints at the site. But it will have its own parking, limited, but we need it for accessibility purposes.
Okay. And then if I kind of ask myself what this may not include, so we're not envisioning this as like a hidden villa or Deer Hollow Ranch where we're not bringing back the animals.
We're still exploring ideas.
Oh,
so
is that possible? That would
maybe not the same volume, but
Yeah.
a limited number of animals could be part of of the programming that's out there.
I see. Okay, so that would be allowed within these goals. And
Yeah, so some of the it would be allowed within the goals and also within the conservation easement. The conservation easement limits commercial activities. So we couldn't have for instance, somebody who makes money off of having animals at the site. But if it's, fits within open space use
Okay,
and or is run by a nonprofit, that could be a possibility.
okay. And what about the olive orchard?
The olive orchards. So again, ideas are still being developed and feasibility. I know there's been kind of a high interest as a historic feature on the property. So we still have to figure out kind of how much and where and how it flows with the rest of the property. But we would like to have kind of a remnant olive stand that is highlighted, but we haven't gotten this far in our
Mhm.
planning process. Like we really are truly figuring out what we can and cannot even do on the property at this point through the high level feasibility work. So even though these are all kind of ideas, we haven't developed it. So that will be in the future.
Okay, yeah. Well, that, yeah, the olive orchard, I'd be interested in. I mean, I don't see any reference to it in here at all, but
Yeah, if you would like a specific goal, we could do that. Otherwise, I think it kind of falls into the uh, learn about the site's history, its stories, and incorporate interpretive elements because it's kind of part of even though it's not a structure, it is an interpretive feature that features prominently at the site, and it is part of what makes it a historic district.
mm,
But we can, separate it out if the board would like to.
yeah. Well, I don't know. I like get some comments back on that because it was, it was a gentleman's farm, and yeah, the olive orchards seem one of the most attractive aspects of it, really, and I just don't see any mention of it at all. So
Mm-hmm.
it seems
Well,
that's a block.
Yeah.
And then I guess related to that was, I'm just kind of remembering that Alpine roads used to have these kind of big trees along both sides, and I think they came down when the road was widened or something, and then they came up, and so it's just kind of goes back to that landscape, design that might be part of this historic aspect of it. So when if and when we do hire a historic a landscape architect, that it'd be great if he or she goes back and looks at that, what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
It is
I mean, I
part
think
of the character.
yeah, it's and what we see there today is probably different from what it was before. So,
Yeah.
and it would be nice to kind of have that, I don't know if it was in LA that was coming up or
Yeah, we do have constraints with the Woodside Fire Ordinance, so we have to kind of work within modern constraints. But maybe there are things that a landscape architect could, we can definitely explore it, and there may be
Right.
things that we can do, or certain trees that kind of mimic it that are fire safe, or, but I
Yeah.
definitely hear that, and there will be, once we kind of get through this feasibility phase, there will be more opportunities to kind of delve into these features that we want to highlight and how we want to highlight them and how we want the public to experience them. That's definitely, I think, on all of our minds as we go through this process, but the site is so complex. It really has a lot of constraints that right now we're really working through figuring out what we can and cannot do.
Okay. All right. Well, if you could kind of note my interest in kind of just that landscape architect
For sure.
view. Thanks. Okay. Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you.
I think we start Director Holman.
Yeah, Director Kishimoto, you bring up an interesting point because I think, and Tina could respond to this, but I think during the POG, I think the olive orchard has also merited a lot of discussion there too. And it has gotten, considerable conversation with this ad hoc. So I'm not going to try to do anything now, but if there was some interest in incorporating something specific about the olive orchard, I certainly wouldn't be opposed to that. And I just want to mention one other thing, which is something I'm really happy about, is the partnership opportunity that and we'll talk about later, but, and hats off to Director Riffle who found this couple. And I wasn't, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't that thrilled with their first proposal, but it's kind of funny how things work out. It's like, I think what they're proposing now is dynamite, just dynamite terrific, just to kind of signal where I am on this. But I think it's a terrific, very creative proposal. And I think it shows, the reason I'm bringing it up is because I think it shows what the potential is for when MidPen as an organization or we as directors reach out and try to find partners for different projects and different sites. So I'm really looking forward to what evolves with that partnership. And we do have it referenced pretty often in our mission and goals and stuff about partnering. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Thank you. I can incorporate draft elements into the goals of regarding the olive orchard and run that by the ad hoc and bring that back before August.
This is Tina Hug, Senior Planner. With regard to the olives, we have heard a lot of input from both the public, the POG, and now the board. One of the challenges is right now we have a lot of moving parts, and how the olives, how they will be managed, how many to keep, long-term uses. We haven't gotten there yet. We're really early, especially with the historic complex. And honestly, we were pretty early with the Hawthorne's area plan. We're just now developing the plan, and some of the specifics that you're speaking of tonight, we don't have an answer to, but we will want to come up with options for the board to consider later in the future, so that you have a time to provide your feedback and look at some of the options we're contemplating that kind of fit within our entire mission. Because there are 1,000 trees out there. I'm not sure we can manage 1,000 trees. So it's that's the flavor. But we hear you. We'll definitely come back and bring it back to the board for your consideration, some of the ideas we have. It's just, it'll be later. That's not, yeah.
That's okay. You're next again.
Well, thanks for that. And I know we're not making any motions tonight anyways, but so I guess it would just be to, recommend adding possibly a goal that talks about the, there's nothing about the vegetation there at all.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe one goal that, says something like consider incorporating the historic olive orchards and other aspects of the historic landscape into future design. So.
Okay.
So that's my feedback.
Hawthorn trees. They're all gone, aren't they?
They are. Well, there's a few. Actually, there's a few
left.
left. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Right. Any more deliberation? More. Looks like a good plan to me. I'm not a great planner, but yeah, one more thought. Definitely, that's what we need to do.
Okay. Well, let's see. I'm just thinking also of the creek
Mm-hmm.
and whether there should be a reference to that as well, because I know there was, a lot of interest in kind of doing some, renovation of the creek, restoration on the creek, and where it fits into that landscape, and so whether it's part of that last goal or not. So it's vegetation as well as the creek.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Good point.
So I guess I just have a clarification though, Director Kishimoto, are you asking for this material to be changed somehow?
Oh, we're not making any changes tonight anyway.
Well,
we're not making any
we're
motion, but
suggesting edits.
that's my suggestion. Yeah. To have maybe a number 10 with some focus on, landscape architecture or, design, vegetation, creek, kind of that part. I just don't see any reference to it in the goals per se. So it would be nice to see it called out more, but.
The only thing I just question is, are we getting too specific for this? I think with that,
okay, sorry.
Maybe Golly, if you could just help me. To me, I think those are all good points that Director Kishimoto is bringing up, but is it the proper place to catch her here, or is it proper to be more in depth here's the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll involve the creek, it'll involve the, and so on, because we purposely didn't dive into, specific elements.
Right, because
of
we
it.
could have a
Kinda-
goal to
we
the
kept it
mansion.
at a higher level. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I'm just wondering, is this the right place to incorporate those, or should that be folded into a more specific plan?
I think we can make maybe a reference within the goals that it includes the historical landscape as, so like something like structures and landscape in terms of interpretation, maybe incorporating it into interpretive elements, including landscape features or, something like that. But I think a lot of those goals, I do think maybe they're too specific because there's so many things at Hawthorne's that we could pull out as goals, like each of the structures, that, there's like rock walls, there's an old, there's a lot of different things that we can pull out as a goal to feature. So maybe just kind of keeping it high level, something about the landscape, and kind of incorporate it into the goals that are existing would be kind of the right approach.
You're right. I'm sure it's noted.
Okay.
Do you feel you've got direction?
I do,
Oh,
yes.
good,
Yeah.
Good.
I just really want to thank the ad hoc committee and the board members. It has been a very enjoyable process. We have a long way to go. We're really just kind of at the beginning. It's a great start. And I just want to thank you for the work that you've done so far.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I think we just don't act. There's no action required.
Okay,
So thank you for all your work so far.
thank you.
Well,
Okay.
on that note, this meeting is adjourned.
We convene at 7.
Come back at 7.
Okay.
Meeting of the directors of the Midpeninsula Regional Open Space District. I am Margaret McNiven, President of the Board of Directors. This meeting is now called to order. It is 7 p.m. This meeting is being held in person at the district's administrative office and by teleconference. Members of the public can attend and participate in the meeting in person or via Zoom. Instructions for submitting public comments are available on the meeting agenda. Okay, roll call, please.
Director Gleason,
Here.
Director Riffle,
Here.
President McNiven,
Here.
Director Kishimoto.
Here.
Director Sear,
Here.
Director Holman.
Here.
Thank you. Director Christine Tucker is absent today.
Thank you. All right, Lead Ranger Stephen Johnson will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Great, thank you. I'll be leading the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first item is oral communications for items not on the agenda. We have one comment for an item not on the agenda. Melanie Moore, you have 3 minutes to speak, and since it's not on the agenda, the board cannot take action today. Thank you.
So good evening. I am Melanie Moore. I'm here to represent the Friends of Bear Creek Stables and the dozens of community members who could not be here in person tonight. I'm here to say thank you to the board members who are leading our working groups. And I know I speak for many of the volunteers. We are heavily invested, we are staying positive, and we do believe. So I'm not going to take the full 3 minutes. I'm here to say thank you.
Thank you. Okay, adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Roll call vote, please. Thank you.
Director Gleason,
Yes.
Director Riffle,
Yes.
President McNiven,
Yes.
Director Holman,
Yes.
Director Kishimoto,
Yes.
Director Seer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0.
All right, we have a couple of special orders of the day today. A fun time. The first is the introduction of staff, and we'll start with Carol Shimke, our new grants program manager.
Good evening, Stefan Jaskulak, CFO, formerly acting general manager, formerly, et cetera, et cetera. Glad everyone's back, but it's definitely my pleasure tonight to introduce our new grants program manager, Carol Shimke. She started on June 17th. Carol is originally from Washington, from Seattle, Washington, and has roots in the nonprofit sector with interest and experience in grant development, strategic planning, program development, conference planning and implementation, and program evaluation for environmental nonprofits. She most recently comes to us by way of ARCS Foundation in San Francisco. That is a nonprofit organization providing scholarships to STEM graduate students, and she was their first director of development. She was instrumental in launching foundation and corporate giving strategies and also refined donor stewardship practices and raised more than $1.3 million annually. So prior to the ARCS Foundation, Carol worked for UC Santa Cruz, where she led a team to secure more than $15 million from private and corporate foundations, building and executing relationship development strategies for a combined portfolio of more than 100 grant-making institutions. Carol also worked for Island Conservation. That's coming a little bit full circle back to environmental, which is a nonprofit international biodiversity conservation organization where she was the institutional giving manager, leading the foundation grants program, developing strategies to build grant partnerships and manage relationships with 40 institutional donors to secure $2.5 million a year. That's setting the bar pretty high. We are actually at an inflection point here with our grants, with the state grants drying up a little bit. So we can definitely use Carol's expertise and connections in the other areas like the corporate and private donors. So please join me in welcoming Carol.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. I just was informed right before I started that I would want to say something. So I don't have anything prepared other than to say I am really happy to be here. This is feeling like a little bit of coming home. I love raising money for environmental conservation work, for science-oriented and environmental education. And this organization, Midpen, just encompasses all of that. And so for me to bring all of those interests into one area, bring this dozens of years that I've had in the space, and just to really bring help the organization come to the next level, I'm really thrilled to be here and offer that. And nice to see you, Kurt.
Great. Welcome aboard. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next, we have Christine Shima-Kunz, accounting technician.
Good evening. I'm Rafaela Seguera. I'm the budget and finance manager, and it's Christine Shima-Kunz.
Kunzi,
Yeah,
apologies.
I had to ask her. I pronounced it just like you did.
Okay.
So today it's my pleasure to introduce Christine to everyone. Christine comes to us with over 25 years of experience in office management and accounting. She has a wealth of information and she's already been incredibly helpful, helping us process our accounts payable. If you might recall, or maybe you haven't, back when you all adopted the FOSSAM, one of the recommendations was to split our current accounting technician that was half-time HR, half-time finance into full-time for each department. So Christine will be filling that position for finance. And we're very excited to have her. On a personal note, Christine, she enjoys the outdoors and enjoys exploring it with her family. And she has not one, but 4 little pups that I'm kind of obsessed with because I made the mistake of telling my daughter that, someone I work with has 4 little pups. And so now that's all she wants to talk about. And so I've been talking to Christine about that too. But Christine has been a great addition so far, and I know she's going to do great. And from the recruitment, she met all, checked off all the boxes and is really passionate about the work that we do here. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Christine.
Thank you very much. Since I started working here, this is my 3rd week. Everyone has been so kind and so welcoming. It's kind of hard to believe that there's like an environment you can work in that's so comfortable. So I really appreciate that. And I do believe that it comes from above. So I'm sure the board has a lot to do with that. I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity. This is my first step into public sector. So it was a little different, but I'm like so excited to start and I'm excited to learn, and I've already gotten my foot in the door and all in the numbers. But yeah, I just want to say thank you, and I'm excited to grow here. And yeah, I don't know what else to say except thank you.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have Laurie Lowe, Public Affairs Manager.
All right, I get the pleasure of introducing Lori as our new Public Affairs Manager. She comes with more than 20 years of experience and demonstrated ability in successfully managing communication strategies, building external relationships, and advancing complex policy objectives and projects. Throughout her career, she has represented organizations that seek positive change. Her experience, abilities, and commitment to championing and developing her work team will allow her to make really meaningful contributions here at Midpen and also with the public affairs team. She was formerly the Manager of Government and Community Affairs for Caltrain. Caltrain, Lori, was instrumental in furthering the agency's $2.4 billion electrification project, building public support and securing full funding to transform the railroad into a world-class, sustainable, equitable service provider. As a prior head of outreach for an environmental health organization, she managed successful campaigns and led coalition engagements. And as a publicist for a multicultural publisher, she forged relationships with the media, community organizations, and institutions. She began her career as a teacher at a Title I high school, and she continues to bring her passion for learning and insights gained from that experience to her work. She holds a master's in education and a bachelor's of arts in American literature and culture from UCLA. So please help me welcome Lori.
Hi, directors. It's so nice to meet you. So I'm Lori Lowe, the new manager of public affairs. And, I'm just so honored to join an organization that is so significant to the people of this region. And I'm truly excited to be working alongside such a talented and committed staff who truly care about the preservation and the experience and the stewardship of open space. So I look forward to working with all of you. Thanks.
Thank you. Welcome. And last but not least, Tina Perez, Management Analyst 2.
Hello, everyone. I'm Candace Basnight, the HR manager. Come on, come closer. I'm excited. All these new people, aren't you all excited?
Yeah.
We have got some great talent that we've added. And last but not least, we've added Tina Perez. She's a new management analyst in HR. And Tina's background, she was, well, first of all, it was a highly competitive process that she bested the field. She brings a perfect mix of education skills, experience, her temperament and appreciation for our mission will make her a great fit, has already made her a great fit to the organization. She earned a bachelor's degree from California State San Bernardino and a master's from Cal State Fullerton in public administration with a concentration in human resource management. She brings 9 years of experience as a human resource professional with increasingly responsible career progression. She has excellent public sector background experience. She worked for cities of Mountain View and Redwood City. She conducted recruitments at all levels in various degrees of complexity, including public safety recruitments. She has a generalist HR background with work experience that includes classification and compensation, personnel rules, regulations, other things like FMLA, and assisting in organizing employee training and wellness programs. However, Tina says she thoroughly enjoys and thrives doing recruitments. Right person, right? So I am pleased to introduce to you all Tina Perez.
Good evening and thank you. I'm just very appreciative of the opportunity to work for such a great organization, and I really look forward to helping grow the workforce here. I know that's a priority, so I'm very excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. What a great group. May we have many more. We have a proclamation recognizing the retirement of Ranger Ken Miller. I'm going to read it, Ken. Okay. Whereas Ken Miller has been an employee of the Midpeninsula Regional Open Space District for over 32 years and is retiring. And whereas Ken hiked tirelessly to find and investigate all historical plane crash sites on district lands, as well as remind staff of their stories. And whereas Ken spent long hours peering through a spotting scope to catch car burglars in the Rancho County parking lots. And whereas Ken has personally trained many of the district rangers in emergency medical response and bicycle patrol procedures. And whereas Ken brought professional integrity and a genuine spirit to the ranks of Mid-Peninsula open space rangers, and whereas Ken fairly and consistently enforced district regulations for the protection of visitors and the preserves, and whereas Ken participated in many medical calls, search and rescues, and emergency responses, improving the outcomes for many visitors in distress, and whereas Ken brought his dedication and admiration for the veterans who served at the former Almaden Air Force Base, keeping their legacy and service alive through interpretation to today's visitors, and whereas Ken was a force of positivity and humor, and whereas Ken will be greatly missed by his colleagues and friends on the district, now therefore let it be resolved that the Board of Directors of the Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District unanimously and enthusiastically congratulate Ranger Ken Miller on a well-deserved retirement and look back on his accomplishments with gratitude and awe, and we wish him all the very best for the future. Congratulations.
Great. Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, good job.
Thank you.
32 years.
Yep. And you're going to hear about a minute worth of stuff to share here real quick. So thank you. Yep. No, I want to thank you all board of directors very much for the proclamation. It's much appreciated. It's interesting. I walked in here and it didn't feel like 32 years when I walked in the door here. It felt like coming back to home and stuff like that. So that's a big thing to share.
I really do miss working with all the people at the district. That's the part I miss. At least for now, I don't miss not coming to work. So, that may change, but I don't think it will change. So, it was a great run and a great part of my career working at the district. And I owe everyone a huge thanks for all that. So thank you again.
Any board comments? Just congratulations.
I'll just add one thing.
Yeah.
I just want to appreciate you, Ken. I remember coming to the district and going on a number of ride-alongs and, site tours with you and just learning so much. You just held so much institutional knowledge. You knew the land so well. And I think it certainly benefited me, but I know that you told those stories to so many people here over the years. And it's just, I think, really enriched our lives and got to understand the land so much better through your eyes.
Yeah. I'd like to. And Ken, I'd like to also add, I learned a lot from you over the years, and I just can't help reflect though tonight. We kind of have bookend. We've got such an incredible person in Ken who really led and showed us how to be a good employee here. And we've got these 4 great people that have just joined us that are just fantastic. So to me, it just says about the quality of the district and the people it's choosing. And thank you for setting a high standard for us, Ken. Absolutely.
Just if I could say just a couple of words. One, it's kind of like the folks that are here, it's kind of like time warp, like 20 years ago. But Ken, I just really appreciate all you've done for the district. You were always one to step up and deal with any problem, whether it was the auto burglaries or the notorious coffee cup left outside the office, or dog waste, or taking on the training with bike patrol or medical training. And just really, I saw in you someone that really took the mission of the district seriously and embodied what a ranger means to be out in the preserve, protecting people and protecting the environment. So just a great job, and thank you for all your years of service.
Great. Thank you. All right, on to business. The consent calendar, agenda items 1 through 7. Does any member of the board wish to have any item pulled from the consent calendar? Director Riff Gleason.
I wanted to make a few comments on the Phase 2 trail naming for Bear Creek Redwoods, and but certainly not pulling the item. But I wanted to thank Pete Siemens' family, and the staff for collaborating really well on that effort. I got really good feedback from Diane Siemens on that. And I think it's a good set of names. I like it. I think they combine these aspects of nature and history, and they're not obvious names, so they encourage people to think about what's there and learn more about the open space and the history. And then finally, the Pete Siemens Trail, it's going to be a long trail. I think that reflects his long service, and particularly the part that we have yet to build in the lower part, and some of it that's been built will showcase the creativity and capability of our trail crew. And I know he really valued that. So.
Thank you very much. Director Holman.
Yeah, I just had a quick comment about item number 7 on consent. I just wanted to express my gratitude to staff. Where are they? Stefan's back there. To staff for collaborating about that and considering my comments. So thank you.
Do we have any public comment on this item?
We did have one person, Christy Corley, register to provide oral comments on item number 3 on the consent calendar. However, she is not present online and she is not present in person, and we have no further public comments on this item.
Okay. Thank you. Any more comments on this item?
If not, I move approval.
Roll call vote, please.
Director Gleason,
Yes.
Director Riffle,
Yes.
President McNiven,
Yes.
Director Holman,
Yes.
Director Kishimoto,
Yes.
Director Seer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0.
Great. Okay, item number 8 is the proposed third-party compensatory mitigation project at Bear Creek Redwoods Open Space Preserve.
Good evening, Board. Cody Cifuentes Winter, Senior Resource Management Specialist, and I'm here to present to you the wet meadow restoration at Bear Creek Redwoods with potential funding through a mitigation agreement. The General Manager's recommendation is to accept the staff's analysis of the proposed third-party compensatory mitigation project at Bear Creek Redwoods Open Space Preserve to restore 1.43 acres of seasonal wetland and riparian habitat, and then to authorize the General Manager to negotiate a mitigation agreement with KMECR LLC, estimated at $450,000 to $640,000 over 10 years, in return for future approval of the mitigation agreement. Before we get started, I just wanted to highlight 2 words that you might have seen in the board report, both mitigation and restoration. I just wanted to make sure that we're all clear about the language here. Mitigation refers to the suite of measures that avoids, minimizes, or effectively eliminates the impacts for a given activity on the environment. These are very typical things that are associated with impacts to the environment versus restoration, which is a little bit higher of a bar. Here, it's an intentional activity that accelerates the recovery of an ecosystem with respect to its health, integrity, and sustainability, and goes above and beyond mitigation or enhancement of a localized site. So mitigation will typically look at a particular impact to an item, such as a tree, and then you would be planting like 3 or 4 trees in its place as mitigation. Restoration, we're looking at the foundation of ecology. We're looking at the soils, we're looking at the waters and how those are benefiting from what's going on, and looking how do we improve that functionality. So at Bear Creek Redwoods Preserve, we have a site that is in the north western section. It's a wet meadow site. A wet meadow is a type of marsh or a wetland in which the water table is very, very high up. Typically, we don't see water necessarily on the surface or collecting at the surface. Maybe during rain events, you might see that, but typically it's just a very marshy area. And this leads to some very interesting different suites of species that might show up at that site. Wet meadows are pretty rare, and in general, about 2% of wetlands in general are still in existence. That's down from the that 98% over time. So at this site of the wet meadow, we have a number of different habitat types. This includes both California annual grasslands, coyote brush scrub. There is a developed dirt road, which we'll go into a little bit more detail here in a second, and then a mixed riparian woodland area. So some of the existing conditions, here we see a site of a disc line that bisects the wet meadow, and this is right outside of Highway 17. This is a legacy disc line road that was inputted prior to district ownership, and it actually goes right through that wetland. Right at the base where you see the green meeting the darker brown area is a place where water concentrates. And this is due to the fact that there is a compacted road at this site. So water collects does not go into the ground. It actually runs down to that area and then cuts down below. This is leading to some erosion issues. So on the left-hand side, we see this eroding disc line. You can actually see some of the water that's pooling in that area. It's not able to sink into the ground where we want the water to be for a wet meadow. It's actually up onto the surface there, and that's because the road is compacted. And then on the right-hand side, it's looking out over the wet meadow. Currently, the wet meadow, though is functioning as a wet meadow, it does have a number of issues with invasive species, including harding grass. There's also teasel and some also yellow star thistle at the site. I described how the road can concentrate the water to that one point, and then it exits the site. This causes what we call a head cut. This is where we have erosion happening pretty actively, and it's actually eroding away where the water is. And so it really incises the channel that we see on the site. So this restoration site is approximately 2 acres. Approximately a little over a year ago, it came to our attention that H.T. Harvey, who is a ecological consulting firm, approached us with a mitigation request. This is for a infill development in Redwood City, and I have Katie Gallagher, the senior botanist with H.T. Harvey, here to talk to us about the development site that's happening in Redwood City. So Katie, if you would like to come on up.
Thank you, Cody. I'm Katie Gallagher with H.T. Harvey and Associates. So I've been working on this project since near its beginning, and it's been very exciting to work with it. The developer, KMECR, it's basically a partnership of investment companies. Location is Redwood City, and the purpose of the project has been particularly interesting because the Redwood City's downtown precise plan calls for the reconstruction of their street grid. And so one of the plans is to basically develop a road that will connect downtown Redwood City over to the train station. And so that road will go through this development project. Additionally, the area that the project is on is underutilized. It's mostly parking lots. The project consists of the construction of a multi-story commercial building. It will include a teen center on the ground floor, which is exciting. Retail and hospitality spaces, it's on El Camino Real, and publicly accessible outdoor space, parking garage, and affordable housing units. So this is how they plan to infill the parking lot space. One component of this project is why the developers pulled in H.T. Harvey and Associates is because there is a creek on site that needs to be relocated to make room for the street grid. The way we will relocate the creek will create a kind of an improvement in the habitat quality. I'll talk about that a little bit. So the creek on site, it's only 169 feet. It's very short. The water runs from the lower left to the upper right to the northeast. And downstream and upstream of this creek is just underground storm drain. It's not particularly high quality habitat, but it is kind of a daylighted section of creek that we want to maintain. So the habitat consists of freshwater marsh that kind of lines the bottom around the open water. And it's surrounded by parking lot. That's the landscape developed area. The majority of the property within the creek is that riparian grassland. I also want to point out kind of in the middle of the upper section of this figure is the Caltrain station and its parking lot. So this is what it will look like when it gets relocated. So the creek, you can see the habitat where it exists today, and then it will get kind of pivoted a little bit and then lengthened to be in the orange envelope. So that is where we will be improving the habitat of this creek. You'll notice that the existing creek is quite straight. The slopes are also smooth. That indicates to me that it was an engineered channel. And so we'll be reinstating a kind of a meandering pathway for it. And so this is photographs of the existing creek. You can see, again, it's straight with smooth banks. The habitat is almost, it's 100% invasive species in the understory. Those are all invasives. It's fennel, it's mustard, it's fat hen is one of the wetlands plants. That's a non-native. There are a few native trees in it, a few valley oaks. They're small, and a couple of walnuts. However, most of the trees on the property in this area are non-native. There's tamarisk, several tamarisk species, individuals, and a non-native plum tree. But you can see right at the bottom, in the left-hand photo at the bottom, right on the water's edge, there are a few cattails and a few rushes. And so those are providing kind of a baseline for us of what we want to create in this new relocated channel. The new one will have wetland benches to help create better wetland habitat. Yep, so that is the extent of the project. That's the on-site mitigation. And so Cody will continue talking about the off-site mitigation at Bear Creek.
Thank you, Katie. Cody Cifuentes-Winter, Senior Resource Management Specialist. We wanted to highlight that we were trying to, or not we, but the developer is trying to provide as much mitigation on-site as possible. This being said, it still was not enough to meet the requirements from regulatory agencies. And so the proposed mitigation at Bear Creek Redwoods, which is what you see up on the screen here, includes restoring 1.43 acres of the wetland. And it's about 0.04, a creation of 0.04 acres of wetland. That is the removal of the disc line that goes through the site. In addition, there will be 0.16 acres of riparian enhancement areas where we'll be doing plantings along the creek bank. To talk about what the potential mitigation would be the removal of this disc line that you see here. The disc line was used as a fire road, and also to stop fires from Highway 17. In 2017, I believe it was, we did install a shaded fuel break between Highway 17 and this disc line. This is going to allow us to remove that disc line without increasing any fire risk to the area. I talked about the seasonal wetland and the removal of harding grass, which is one of the main invasive species there. There's also other species that we'd want to remove to enhance that habitat, along with planting and seeding of native species within this area. We would also be looking at this channel and reconfiguring the channel. And we do have a little bit of some engineered diagrams here showing what that might look like if we move forward with this project. So the idea would be to lay back that incision on the creek banks to make it more natural, to take care of the erosion control issues that are going there. The idea really is to get the water to be in the ground and not to be above ground. If we have the water in the ground, much more drought resistant, and that's the way the site really works functionally for the ecology at the site. One note is, going back to the original slide that I had talking about mitigation and restoration. The restoration site is much larger than the mitigation that we're talking about today for this, but this is a great foundation for the restoration. This is going to provide some really great foundational work for the soils, for the hydrology of the area. Additional restoration work would be required beyond what this mitigation would require. But it will lay some really great foundations for the work at this site. So with that, I'll end it on the general manager's recommendation and take any questions.
Any questions? Director Gleason.
The timeline for this is 10 years. So is that like a, say, earth moving right at the beginning and then more planting and management of planting over time?
That is correct. So typically we would do all the earth moving, the hardscape as we would call it, within the first year, get that foundation completed. We usually plant over the next 3 years and really try to get those plants established. The 10-year timeline is really about making sure those plants get established and making sure that we're meeting the criteria that are outlined within the permitting. Once we get into year 5, typically it's invasive species work and just reporting on the mitigation project.
And there's a trail that was built that goes right by there. I had somebody ask me about impact on trail use. Would that also be just at the beginning, or?
So there would be no impact to trail use. So there is a new trail that outskirts the wetland. You can actually see the wetland, and so we'd be able to showcase some of the work that we're doing there. And as a matter of fact, that trail work has already really helped out. We removed another disc line, and we're in the middle of restoring that disc line that was there for that trail. So there would be no impact. With one little caveat, and that would be when we are first doing that earth moving, we might have to close the trail to allow heavy equipment across, but then it will be reopened.
Great, thank you.
Director Riffle.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Cody. I guess 2 questions just as far as impact on the district. First of all, I'm very supportive of this and thank you for helping facilitate it. But it sounds like financially, we are clear, right? I mean, that's part of the deal is that they are funding this, not only installation, but also. So just if you could explain just from a financial point of view.
Yeah.
And then second, to kind of follow up on Director Gleason's comment, the impact long-term from just the staff in making sure that this, that we are complying and monitoring, I guess, and the monitoring requirements or reporting requirements for this. So could you just go through those a little bit?
Yeah, so if this item were to be approved, what would end up happening is we'd go into negotiations for the funding agreement, how much money would actually be involved to do this. That would include staff time for the monitoring. It would include all the construction costs as well and additional planning costs that would be associated with that. So overall, it should be a net zero financial. This being said, there is some risk. And that risk is the fact that the developer would like to provide the funding up front, and then the district would take on the rest of the restoration or the rest of the mitigation and the monitoring aspect. So what we need to do is make sure that we scope that out correctly in terms of finances to make sure we cover, because we would be on the hook to make sure that we meet the success criteria of the mitigation project. So that is part of the reason why you see the estimate right now at $450,000 to $640,000. We haven't got into huge amount of details about that, but we want to make sure that we bake in that risk to make sure that if we're not meeting success criteria, that we still have funding to meet those success criteria.
Okay, just quick. And who do we kind of report that this thing is actually working? How does that work?
Yeah, so it falls under what we typically do for any of our mitigation projects. So right now, I believe we have 18 mitigation sites throughout the district. These are mitigation sites for impacts that we've caused for any of our trail buildings or anything like that. And so it'd fall under those same sort of stuff. And so what ends up happening is that we go out to the sites typically twice a year. We monitor based off the success criteria that's outlined within their permits from regulatory agencies. We write up a report, and that report is sent into the regulatory agencies. So they're the ones that receive these reports and review the reports to make sure that we're meeting those success criteria.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Interesting. Let's see. We'll start with Director Sear.
Thank you. Couple of things. First of all, I appreciate all the photos. It really helps me get a sense of what we're dealing with. And then I was thinking, just as you mentioned the costs, and if we're on the hook for it, over a 10-year span, those costs are not going to go down. They're going to go up. So hopefully we can build in enough cushion where that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, that's something that we will take into consideration as escalation costs over time. $1 today is not going to be $1 in 10 years.
Thank you.
Yeah. Director Kishimoto.
Yes, thank you. So I was just kind of curious at the Redwood City site, what creek system or watershed is that part of?
Kitty?
And how does that, is there like a larger picture in terms of, you know, one shoreline or?
Yeah, so you may have heard of it because it's in some of the documentation for the city of Redwood City. The Arroyo de los Ojos. Does that sound familiar? Most of it is underground. It was if you look at historical photographs, you can see there used to be a creek running right next to this property. Most of it runs through the Sequoia Station shopping center. And then the creek that this project is talking about, the existing creek, is a tributary to Arroyo de los Ojos. Downstream of it, it meets up with the Redwood Creek slough in the bay.
Obviously, eventually goes to the bay,
Mhm.
and I guess there's no kind of flooding issues or anything like that.
So the city of Redwood City, I guess Public Works within the city, they've been working with the developer very, very closely to make sure that the relocated creek has capacity for a 100-year floodplain, for 100-year flood volumes, has enough freeboard. Same with during construction, because construction for this creek will take well over a year. The bypass pipe during construction to relocate just the water, that will also be large enough to hold a significant amount of water. So yes, there should be zero risk of flood from this project. Yeah.
I guess that's really not a Mid-Penn's business. Thank you for telling us that.
You're welcome.
Director Holman.
Yes, thank you for coming tonight. And I have a question also, a couple of questions also about the Redwood City site. So I'm interested in, I like that Midpen has this policy about mitigations and accepting mitigation dollars. My question one question Director Sears already asked too, which is about like, by the time we get this built, what are the dollars actually going to be? And is it going to be a true mitigation, or is it going to be a down payment on a mitigation? So that's a significant, I think, question. The other is, when it comes to mitigations, it's, they're best if they can be avoided. Of course, you want to do the best you can on site. So it's been stated that it's low quality habitat as it exists now.
Yes, I mean, it's still riparian habitat, which is still valuable, but it's not pristine by any means.
And so what I'm not understanding is what's being done when it's relocated, what's being done to make it better habitat?
Is it possible to go to the other, one of the hidden slides? Oh, the cross section. Yep.
Yes. Can you show me that to me? Sorry.
We unhide it. So this side you want to show? And you unhide it or no, it's already unhidden.
It's not unhidden.
It's not unhidden. It says hide.
Yeah, click on that. There you go.
Okay, and then this one.
While they're looking for that, I just want to be clear that, like I said, I'm glad that MidPen has this policy, but I also want the policy that MidPen has to have a retained high integrity aspect to it. So we want to make sure that we're accepting mitigation dollars for something that can't otherwise be taken care of on site. So it's the integrity of the MidPen policy.
Absolutely. So one of the things that this developer has been having to deal with, which is a good thing, is originally their plan for this, the relocated creek, was to just move it over and shrink it a little bit. And then they brought us on, HT Harvey, and we said, pretty sure there aren't going to be any agencies out there that accept a shrinking of this site. So we told them you need to expand it as much as possible. And so they actually took out some components of their project, for example, open space plaza that was going to be kind of a gathering area for the public. They took that out and instead lengthened the relocated channel as much as possible. They lengthened it by, well, honestly, I forget how long it was, but they maximized the creek by length. And then by habitat quality, this slide I wanted to show here is the cross-section of the relocated creek, where right now the existing creek has what we called riparian grassland because it's mostly non-native grasses and herbs in the understory, and just a few trees kind of speckled here and there. What we're going to be putting in is more native trees and shrubs and herbs. So definitely a higher quality habitat because it will be multi-tiered. Additionally, you see down at the bottom of the slide, there's the change in topography is where there will be this wetland bench. And we've been working very closely with the engineers to make sure that the low flow, the kind of the daily flow that passes through this creek will be able to maintain wetlands on this bench here. And then also hold the low flow in the bottom channel. So because of this, you know, the slopes that we have here and then the wetland bench and then the open water at the bottom, we've created a much more complex ecosystem to be located in this small envelope. And the habitats or the plants that we plant will be species that will be appropriate for this site ecologically. They'll be good for riparian, good for wetlands. We also consulted with, I can't remember which tribe it was, one of the local tribes wanted to comment on this project, and they requested elderberries to be planted in this project site because elderberries were significant for them. So that's also included in the plant species list.
This is very helpful and I really appreciate it. And I'm going to ask maybe a naive question because this is kind of an unusual setting for, you know, but are you going to, or is the project developer intending on introducing any wildlife that would be using this as riparian corridor or habitat? Or is it going to be, they'll find it?
Yeah, wildlife, no. Typically, when you have a site like this that's it's completely surrounded by urban concrete jungle, you typically don't want wildlife, other wildlife that travels on the ground to use it because they'll just get run over. Obviously, birds will be encouraged to come, you know, different species that of plants will be planted that support insects, that support birds. But that will be the main request for sure. And I might add that the developers have been working very well with us to develop a bird safe design for the structures on the site.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so you've consulted with Audubon perhaps to look at nesting sites for the fowl that,
Do you mean to create vegetation that will support nesting fowl? Yeah, that will definitely be possible in the wetland benches and up on the slopes as well. Yeah.
yeah, okay. Because obviously you don't want crawlers because like you say, they're going to get run over, but it's such an isolated instance here. So,
Yeah. This is a unique site because it's so landlocked or no, urban locked. There's no connection to other higher quality habitats, unfortunately.
all right. Thank you very much. You've, this illustration helps me a lot understand about setbacks and that sort of thing too. So
Good.
really, really appreciate that. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any more? Do we have any public comment?
We have no public commenters on this item.
Thank you. All right. Anybody have anything more to say?
It's quite a project.
It's quite a project. It is. It's kind of hot, lifts the heart. I mean, it's both projects are enhancements, so that's great. Yes, Director Holman.
Could there be a clarification about the question that Jed asked and I followed up on about the dollar amount? And as time goes on, if it's really going to cover the cost?
Yeah, so what will end up happening is we'll start to negotiate with the developer, with HT Harvey to discuss what actually needs to happen and what periods that will happen at. We will look at those actions that happen and add an escalation cost to those. So such as, the initial groundwork disturbance will happen in year 1. The plantings will happen in year 1, 2, most likely 3, potentially 4. We'll add those in for today's cost and add an escalation cost to that. We'll also look at what is typical for us on mitigation sites when we're doing these type of work for the maintenance of those plants to get them established and also the removal of invasive species throughout that area. And then finally, what we'll do is part of the negotiations will be, what is the worst case scenario? What could happen that might require some intervention beyond what we're thinking, and sort of that's part of the negotiations to make sure that we are covered in case something were to happen.
So thank you for that further explanation. And so I'm going to throw this out for board consideration is like number 2 here. To negotiate a mitigation agreement with KM, and I don't have the exact wording here, so estimated at $450,000 to $640,000 over 10 years. I mean, maybe staff thinks that you've heard this loud and clear enough, but I'd feel a little bit more comfortable there was something referenced here in terms of like the $450,000 to $640,000 is, I presume, today's dollars. And that we, as a part of the negotiation, there's inclusion for an escalation factor for inflation.
Anybody?
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I guess I'd like to hear Cody's response to that.
So once we start to do negotiations, we will be coming back to the board for approval of that mitigation agreement. That is where you can check my math.
I wasn't clear this was coming back to us again, so
Yeah.
thank you.
And yeah, that's the part for return for future approval.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's right there, and
we're
it's
not
right there, and I
approving.
didn't read it clearly enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Yes, Director Kishimoto.
Well, if the board is ready, I'm happy to make the motion.
Sounds good to me.
And I'll second.
Thank
Okay,
you.
this would be a motion to adopt the 2 general managers' recommendations.
And we have a second, so
Yep,
we can
sorry,
take a
yep,
vote.
yep.
Director Gleason,
Yes.
Director Riffle,
Yes.
President McNiven,
Yes.
Director Holman,
Yes.
Director Kishimoto,
Yes.
Director Seer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, thank you. Thanks for all the work.
Yes.
All right, item number 9, first reading of the revised ordinance for use of Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District lands.
All right, good evening. Brad Pennington, Area Superintendent for the Foothills area. So it's that time of year or not time of year, time again to go over the ordinance for land use regulations for the district. This was last done in 2020. Small amount of revisions compared to 2020. So this is probably going to be pretty quick and easy. I jinxed myself, right? So just a little background, as set forth in Public Resource Code, the district has a right to control the uses on its land and basically publishes ordinance of rules. Last reviewed in 2020. We performed a comprehensive review with staff members. So that basically constituted by a supervising ranger, some lead rangers and rangers, and basically asking them what's going on out there, what are the new trends that emerged over the years, any new issues out in the field so that we can properly address those with our ordinances out in the field. Consists of 2 parts for the ordinance. So there's going to be the actual ordinance booklet, which lists all the rules and regulations. And there's also going to be the bail schedule, which is the fines, the base fine that is charged to each of those rules and regulations that is filed with 2 courts, San Mateo and Santa Clara. General Manager's recommendations. Waive the reading, read by title only, and introduce the proposed amendments to the ordinance regulating use of Mid-Peninsula Regional Open Space District lands for adoption at the next regular meeting on July 24th. Recommend proposed updates to the bail schedule for adoption at the next regular board meeting of July 24th. Major changes and new additions. The biggest that we did here with this revision is we segregated out the e-bike violation. Currently, the e-bike violation was nestled in with other electric similar devices. So that was Segways, that was like electric scooters. So right now, if we were to pull up the data on how many e-bike violations we have, we could give you a roundabout number, but it wouldn't be specific because it could also be a Segway, it could also be electric skateboard, it could also be an electric scooter. So this way, we're going to get more accurate data out of what the actual ordinance that we're recording is giving us. When we looked at these, 409.6 and 409.9, we kind of noticed we had power driven mixed in with non-power driven. So we went ahead and just adjusted those so that one is strictly non-power and one is powered. Now we want to stick with the power driven. We don't want it to confuse with the other powered driven mobility device, but we wanted to incorporate all power driven, whether that be gas, electric, steam. I hope they're not still running on steam, but who knows? We see a lot of strange things out there. So basically that just redid this, and with the 502.8 would be the new section for e-bikes, and that would actually be nestled in the correct area under our ordinances, which the 502 series is regulations for bicycles. So it actually puts in the right place. We are recommending to remove one section. This is kind of something that probably should have been addressed back in 2020. We came up with a new ordinance, we changed, the bicycle ordinance in 502.1 and 502.2. And we did that so that people could actually ride a bike into maybe a preserve that doesn't allow bikes, but allowed them to be in the parking lot area. Because before they wouldn't even allowed to be in that. So when we did it, we created the verbiage that basically says you can't operate bicycles on an undesignated trail. So with that, walk-only zones are undesignated trails. So we didn't have the need anymore to have the walk-only zone ordinance, which is the 502.5. So now we changed the signs already. It's already been done in the field. You can see the old sign, which is the walk-only zone. Now we have walk your bike. Bikes may not be operated beyond this point. So that fits closely with what the rangers are using as the regulations in the field.
May I interrupt for just a moment?
Yeah.
When you produce this, you might want to do previous things.
Did I
for
do a things?
502.5?
I did. Sorry about that.
That's right. This
see,
is not an attack. It's
you-
to help
you,
them.
you missed our laugh pack. I would have had you there. I would have had you there. All right. Other small changes, we added the word trap to collecting reptiles, amphibians, mollusks. We have been having some issues up on the Skyline area with rangers finding cover boards. For those not familiar, that's basically throwing on a flat board to collect reptiles. You know, it was in there, but it wasn't as clear for the trap. So we figured we add that. It would help the rangers out a little bit. And also when they're explaining the ordinance to the people in the field, the word trapped in there just makes it a little more clear. And then unlawful defacement. This is one that came up out of a nice Sierra Azul event, but we actually had people deconstruct the gate and then reconstruct it. So they didn't really deface it, but they got in the preserve somehow, and that's how we kind of found them rebuilding it. So we went ahead and put the deconstruct and then added the word gate in there to make sure we cover all our base. Yeah, I see Director Riffle. And then unsafe driving for 803.3, we just added the word drifting. It just resonates with the people we're talking with out there. They can understand. Drifting is the operation of a vehicle while continuously breaking traction. So it's basically sliding. Yeah, and then you kind of go back the other way. So they like to do that in our parking lot. So okay. All right. So with that, we have some changes to bail schedule. Of course, we would do the addition of 502.8 with electric bicycles. We'd make that a $75 fine. That's consistent with other power-driven violations. We do want to reduce the fine for after-hours bicycle operations, and that's just an after-hours person is $35, and we feel it's kind of right to be an after-hours bicycle for $35 as well. Also, when there's a difference like that, you can tend to not catch the data correctly because people can say, okay, this person's cooperative, I'll give them the after hours versus the after hours bike. This way, there's not that little factor making any decisions in the field. It's even across the board. And then, of course, the deletion of the walk-only zone. I throw this slide in every time because usually there's a question, but this is how the bail works in the courts. So when we do set a $30 fine, that's about $196 to the person on the other end by the time courts add their fees. So this is just to help with how much the total citation will end up. I think it's $1 difference for San Mateo because they still have a night court fee. And that concludes the ordinance update. And I'll, if any questions, and go back to the general manager's recommendations.
Director Riffle.
Yeah. Brad, thanks for taking us through this. Again, could you go back to the walk only? I have to admit, as much as I've been out in our preserve, I've never seen that a sign like that. Could
This
you
sign,
describe
this sign only actually existed at the Daniels Nature Center.
Oh yeah.
Around that pond area previously. It was a walk only zone because you could ride bikes in both Skyline Ridge and Russian Ridge, and there was the tunnel. So we made the walk only zone.
Oh, I see.
We also did the same at the top of Mount Umunhum around the summit near the ceremonial circle,
Right,
and
right.
on those paths up there.
Got
So
it, okay.
those are the only two places this really comes into play
Got it.
for that walk only zone.
All right. All right. Thanks.
Director Kishimoto.
Well, this is, well, I didn't, this is not related to kind of what you said, but I just kind of glancing through this, maybe this is my opportunity to ask about that. There's one section in here about spreading your ashes, the cremation, and you can do it only with a permit. But
Only
is
with a
that
permit.
just routinely granted, or is there?
It depends on the location, for sure. I think I've known myself as when the area superintendents generally get those permits. From my area, I've only approved one in my time. I don't know before that how many have happened. We've had several illegal ones, like we have found ashes like on the rocks on Mount Umunhum on the top the next day. Yeah, so, and there's a reason we don't want them to put them there. You know, they can spread them somewhere else that's a little non-invasive or just so public, you know, people are going to come across it.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, so let's see, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not have any public commenters on this item.
Thank you. Okay, oh, I did have a question. Do people really have segways up on these, on
Yes. And
up
I'll
the
let you
hill?
guys guess on where.
Is it on Rancho Cemetery?
Yeah.
Okay,
And they even have off-road ones. They have big knobby tires. So yeah.
okay. I just thought it was an indoor sport.
Oh no, we even have electric skateboards with off-road tires on them.
Yeah.
St. Joseph's Hill is a good one for that.
Yeah. On item. Okay, if there's nothing more to be said.
Yeah. So, well, I just,
Seems
well, the only question,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's in here, but I remember maybe 1 or 2 times ago when we looked at it, there was the section on the water.
Water
stealing wa-
theft?
Is that in here?
It's not up for change. We left it as is. That's something that, it's still in there. It stays. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That came out of the Lupin Lodge incident.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't see it in here, but it must be.
Well, I only highlighted what was changed.
Oh, I see.
So everything
Okay.
else was
Oh,
left alone. Yeah.
Okay. So we didn't, this is not the whole
No,
thing.
we
Yes,
did an
okay.
extensive, back in 2020 when we did this, we had a huge sheet because we changed. A lot.
Right,
We really reorganized.
Okay.
So going forward, hopefully we have a lot more like this where it's very small additions.
Okay. Very good.
And changes.
In response to what.
To what we see.
in the field.
Yeah, it's what we see out there. And back then, in 2020, we changed some cattle stuff for the cattle grazing. We actually added some ordinances for that.
Sorry, do you have another question?
Of course.
Yeah, sorry. Brad, I've noticed, and I didn't quite see it in here, but that there are now some electric motorcycles, off-road
Steer-ons.
motorcycles.
Yes.
Would those be, and they look a lot like a motorcycle. And would that be considered a bicycle or?
No, that would be written under a motorized vehicle. Actually, not even scooter. That would be a misdemeanor, and it would go under our motorized vehicle in the preserve. Yes, that is the wattage on the motor on those actually puts it out of even a moped class. It puts it in. It's a motorcycle. It's an off-road motorcycle. I mean, there's other penal codes you can get them for if they're on the roadway because they probably should be licensed.
Great.
I
Right.
know other cities are having the problem with it too because they don't really know what to do with them.
Right, I see.
It's a technology coming so fast. that-
Yes, yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So they're not allowed on preserves?
No.
Yeah. got it.
E-bicycles, I mean, they're very specifically outlined in the penal code. And there's 3 classes and there's the wattage on the motors, there's the throttles, the pedal, there's certain things that they have to meet. A lot of these bikes being produced that some people are seeing, they don't meet those. So they're technically a moped or depending on the motor wattage, because you can convert wattage to horsepower. There's a formula for it. That is what turns either to a moped or to a motorized vehicle like an electric motorcycle.
Oh. I'll stick to my feet.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to make a motion then.
Thank you.
Yes, to adopt the general manager's recommendations 1 and 2.
Second.
Thank you, Chad. Okay, we can take roll call.
Nice job, Brad.
Thank you.
Sorry, I missed it.
You would have caught my air, Jed.
Roll call vote, Director Gleason,
Yes.
Director Riffle,
Yes.
President McNiven.
Yes.
Director Holman,
Yes.
Director Kishimoto, Director Seer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for that report.
Yes. I'm glad it was not expensive, Brad, and you could do it selectively.
The goal is to try to bring this back at least biannually, or if not, every 4 years, because we'll look at it biannually. If there's nothing, then we go.
All right, so informational reports. Do we have any committees this last 2 weeks?
I don't know if we need to report on the ad hoc working group, but we met, I'm not sure about the others. Do we need to report on those? I don't know if we need or not.
I think normally ad hocs do get reported as well.
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so we, the Bear Creek Stables, funding and partnership, working group, has actually met twice, so each week. And, good group, and we're making progress and finding out some interesting opportunities. And with that,
Great. Thank you.
Yes, so my group's the architecture, engineering, and site planning. Again, good group, really good group, 10, 11 people, something like that, from different areas of expertise. And because those various topics do interface with each other on the site, they're also specific enough that they could be delineated. And so we have now 3 subcommittees in the ad hoc. And it's a great group of people, learning a lot. And we've met twice as a complete group. The subcommittees have met, and we meet again this Sunday. Then we do a site visit with staff on Monday.
Thank you. Director Gleason.
Yeah, just to complete that, the operations and programming group has also been meeting each week. It ended up being a pretty large group. We had, I think, 19 signups. And we've also had subgroups doing additional work offline and in the meetings there. And we also have a site visit coming up tomorrow.
Great. All right. Staff, do you have anything you want to say?
As Stefan's coming up to the podium, I just mentioned that glad to be back.
Glad to have you
Oh,
back.
yes, welcome back. And tomorrow, actually, I believe President McNiven and I
Yes,
will be
and-
heading out to Memorial Park, where San Mateo County Parks will be celebrating their 100 years.
Should be fun.
Should be.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, Brian and I will be doing a presentation at the Palo Alto Kiwanis from noon to 2. So if you're interested in coming, let us know.
Stefan.
Stefan Jaschler, CFO. Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that we closed the bond deal yesterday morning. To be honest, it's very anticlimactic. I don't know if you've ever been involved in that, but basically it's a phone call at 8:30 in the morning from the district. It was Mike Foster, Hillary, Rafaela, and myself. We had the underwriters on, the fiscal agent, various other lawyers like disclosure and bond counsel, and the financial advisor. We were all on the call at 8:30. And basically, everybody confirms that the money has moved, and then they call in the depository trust company, DTC, and then they confirm that the QSIPs have been issued and everything is fine. Everybody says congratulations, and 7 minutes later, it's all over. So there was 37 million and some change, and we've already drawn down 8.3 million that we spend in the remainder part of 2024, fiscal year 24. On such things as, Johnson acquisition, the Fifth acquisition, part of Eberhard, as well as various capital projects. So it's done. We're closed with 2024 bond issue.
100% sale? They all got sold?
Oh, yeah, more than sold,
More,
actually.
I think I remember you saying
It was
that.
triple.
About 3
and
times as many.
3 times,
Okay.
which allowed us to negotiate the prices down until enough people dropped off to where we had enough to cover the 37 million. So, yeah.
Great. Thank
We have a
you.
good team, internally and externally. It's a well-oiled machine at this point. I think we've done, this is the 4th or 5th transaction like this, and results are good. And high participation in retail. As I mentioned at the last board meeting, I mean, several residents in the area stepped up with $1 million each. So that's quite an accomplishment. It's unusual.
Well done.
Thank you.
All right, directors. Anything you want to say?
Let's start this way.
Director C. Yes, I'll start this way. Director
Okay, I
C.
just want to report that I attended both of the FPPC workshops on Form 420 and 700. So They were 2 hours apiece. It was kind of interesting, but it went through all those paragraphs on the page 2, 3, 4. You know. So it was interesting. Don't want to do it annually, but, and that's it.
I just met with Brian and Josh Hugg. We met Antonio Lopez, the mayor of East Palo Alto, at Ravenswood. Gave him a little Midpen tour because there's going to be a big development down there. And so we wanted to reassure him that we'd take care of the environment. So, and then we went up to Pulgus Ridge just to show him more stuff. Nice guy.
Good.
Thank you, Brian.
Sure. So that was because he is a candidate for the Board of Supervisors. And we will, Josh is scheduling several field trips with candidates for Board of Supervisors and other elected offices. It's a good opportunity to meet people before they become the elected and kind of give them the district's perspective.
Thank you for clarifying that. And on that note, this meeting is adjourned.
Okay, good.